Do Good Work Podcast, hosted by Terrell Strayhorn and Jaquin Johnson. We specialize in taking a deep dive into issues that truly matter. Each episode unpacks the challenges and opportunities facing today's leaders, from classrooms to boardrooms, offering insights that inspire real change. By redefining success, we're changing lives, empowering people everywhere to create environments where everyone feels a sense of belonging, whether at home, work, or school. So hey, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we explore the issues shaping our futures, one meaningful conversation at a time. Let's go!
Welcome back to the Do Good Work podcast. I'm your co-host Jaquin Johnson, joined by my good friend and collaborator.
What's going on? T Rizzy, Terrell Strayhorn in the house. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Do Good Friday.
Do Good Friday.
New series where we'll spend some time really talking about issues that kind of relate to the podcast, but we won't have to wait until Saturday for that show. This will be sort of dropping some fresh information, sort of one topic at a time.
Yeah, so we've been talking that kind of led to this episode, and it's around honesty.
Yeah.
And the question really becomes like, when did honesty become painful? Who are we protecting? And that could be ourselves from hurt, harm, or pain. It could also be protecting the person we're talking to, or the people that are in the room. And as we were talking about honesty, we kind of moved through psychological safety and security. We also, another question that was posed was, when did we learn that honesty is painful?
Yeah.
And you kind of had some thoughts on that, like it's learned behavior. So kind of share with us about, your thoughts about it, and then kick it over, and I'll talk about this topic.
Oh Lord, I can't. I'm trying to get the stuff posted. So okay, let me tag one or two more here so that we end up having folks join us across the various platforms. We need a moderator. So
That is very
if you
true.
tune in out there and you're really interested in helping us, reach out and say, hey, I'll be your mod, which means that after we go live, you'll go on all these platforms and help us get it sent out to folks. But yeah, I thought, the conversation about honesty is particularly important and timely. You know, I'll set it up, at least for myself, on this Friday, and that is, I spent some time with some colleagues at a campus, and for an event that, by and large, went okay. It was not the best representation, I think, of all of the hard work and time that went into it. And as a professor, as an administrator, as a professional, as a person, uh, maybe growing up with my parents and my grandparents, uh, I do not feel like we were raised to be afraid of, being honest. There are certainly some things that we should talk about in this episode that we inherited. I think we all sort of inherit growing up, but I felt like my parents created a safety space, a safe space, a safety net for us to, share some of our opinions. Like my mom, I remember she is a good baker, and she would make sweet potato pies. And I remember one year, can't remember what year, but one year for Thanksgiving, she forgot to put something in the pies. I don't know if it was nutmeg. I don't bake sweet potato pies, but whatever it was, she forgot it. And so she asked us, so what do y'all think of the pies? And she wasn't looking for anyone to just be like, oh, they're great, if they weren't great. She knew that she had forgotten something. She just wanted to know that it really influenced the taste of the pie. So she needed us to be honest. And when we said like, these are not the best ones, she was like, oh my gosh, this is why. And, she could, and I think she even threw that batch away and then made them over. So what I took from that is, unfortunately, it's interesting. As children, we are taught these 10 commandments in a sort of biblical Christian sense, like thou shalt not lie. And we teach kids to tell the truth. And then like teachers come back, and we were both elementary school teachers, right? So the things you say in elementary school to students is things like honesty is the best policy. And then I think we spend most of our lives teaching children when not to be honest, when these rules do not apply. And unlike my situation with my grandma, my mom, actually, growing up with those sweet potato pies, most of us say things like, don't tell grandma her cookies are nasty, or, say thank you even though you hate the gift. Or by a certain age, all of us are pretty fluent in social dishonesty, right? Anybody listening to the episode right now who will watch it later knows, if you see no one can say this, right? But I'm going to say it for the sake of the conversation, is no one has ever called a baby unattractive or odd looking, or that the baby's head is too big
To the person.
or that don't look like a girl. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have had those moments, but we are so fluent in social dishonesty, and what we call it is good manners. Being PC, politically correct, being apropos, having some decorum, all of these things. And I think, yeah, sure. But what it also does, it gets to the heart of your question to me, is it teaches us that honesty, transparency, authenticity is bad. And we're supposed to put on a mask and perform and say all of these things, even though it may not be exactly what we feel. My sort of final point, I definitely want to tag you in on this one because you taught kindergarten. I taught K-6, but I had kindergarten classes. And I think, I want to tell this story, but I got to make sure I say it the right way because I don't want to get in trouble. But my nephew, my sister's son, one time was at church and like they were at choir rehearsal, and he was very, very young, probably in kindergarten or first grade. I can't remember the age. And they were doing the prayer circle. And so they were like, does anybody have a prayer request? And my nephew raised his hand. They were like, oh, Eric, do you have a prayer request? He said, yeah, please pray for my mama and my daddy because they were arguing last night. And so everybody is like,
Clutch pearls.
Mortified. But listen to what we're mortified at. The truth. Right? People told him like, shh, you don't say that. What are we teaching him? Right? Sure, we're teaching him some decorum. We're teaching him something stay inside the house. But I think the other lesson we may be inadvertently teaching each other is that it is not acceptable to speak the truth, to lay the facts bare, to be transparent. As T.D. Jakes once said in a sermon, naked and not ashamed. You got to be ashamed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you share an amazing example about your mom and her cooking, and she asked you all to be honest with her. Like, did she know there's an ingredient that is missing, and she wants to know if it impacted the taste, and you all were honest with her, right? And then she took that and was like, absolutely, like I know that impacted it, but that's like it's positive reinforcement. It signaled to you that honesty is okay, even when it's difficult, even when it's hard to say, even when it's painful, even when I know you're probably going to get upset with what I have to share. But to be honest, it didn't taste the same. There are also messages that you're also sharing, and that we clutch our pearls when people are honest with us. For example, I know you said kindergartners are blatantly honest. They will tell you exactly how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And when we give them a look or tell them that they should not say that or say it in this particular space, what we're telling them is like, there are certain places, certain times, certain situations where you can be honest, you can tell the truth,
Mhm.
but you also got to read the room and understand like there are some things you don't share. You have to sugarcoat it. You have to camouflage how you feel. Well, that's also telling us like, okay, as a kid growing up through these developmental stages, a- wrestling with, okay, so when can I be honest?
Mhm.
And now you walk into, you go to school or you get into the workforce and people are having good discussion about a particular topic, and let's say that we're only talking about all the positives, and you're someone saying, here are some things that we can improve on. But if you are met with people, you know, judging you for your honesty, or smacking their lips and giving you the cold shoulder, then at some point you learn to just be quiet and
Yep.
not share. But if we don't share those things and share, it's, yes, it's okay to talk about the things that are going good and celebrate them, right? We talk about that. But in order for us to improve, we have to be honest with each other and talk about the things that, don't make sense, or our processes are flawed, or, how we treat our students or our colleagues are horrible. And we need to improve these, practices.
Yeah.
But we can't get there unless we have these honest conversations. And it's also okay to start the conversation with, listen, this is difficult to say, but here's my perspective on the topic.
And I think that, it's a tragedy and a travesty that we have created this kind of environment where we can't be, as you said, brutally honest. Although, so much of what we need in the world is honesty. Yeah, we need light, we need peace, but we won't get to those, I think, if we can't be honest with ourselves about, how do we get as a nation to the state we are in right now politically? How is it that we, look, I'm not trying to keep us there, but what happened in the last election? We've got to be honest with ourselves. And here's the part that I was reacting to when you were saying it, is like, we have to also be comfortable when it's not uncomfortable to say. Like, it's not uncomfortable for me to say some things that I think people find very uncomfortable. I think we should know that sexism is real.
Mhm.
It has cost two outstanding, incredibly talented, capable women a run to the White House. just just sit with it. Don't deny it. Don't put it on emails for one of them and put it on the time that she had to run for another. No, no, no. Let's just embrace the fact that in all of our goodness as a nation, for all of our democratic principles, we are not perfect yet. What is it? To form a more perfect union. We are perfecting this union. And some of the things that are um, compromising and spoiling our perfection are all the isms. Sexism is real. You know, people wanted to know, why is it that you know, um, oh my gosh, can't call it because I didn't prep for this part, but the coach whose son didn't get drafted. Why was he so late to be drafted?
Deion Sanders, son, Shador.
Can we just call a spade a spade? Because racism is real. Race and racism are real in this country. They matter, right? So I'm not uncomfortable saying that. I'm not uncomfortable facilitating a conversation about it. I'm not uncomfortable even when people clutch pearls and they say, oh, well, wait a minute. I can deal with all that. I feel very comfortable handling and facilitating that conversation. Um, I don't think that means that we're a horrible space. I don't think that means we're a glorious space. I think it means that we are becoming a more perfect union, exactly as our founding documents say. So I'm saying that because we have created an environment, we have created a society where it is not acceptable socially, to be honest. And we have to admit that we created it and we perpetuate it. You know, every time the kindergarten says, I've been around an unnamed kindergartner who looked out and said, you know, that guy is fat. And everyone says,
Mm.
don't say that. He's not fat. He's full. He's not fat. He's just thick. He's not fat. He's just heavy set. Okay. Whatever we're going to call it. Right. But look, medical doctors can tell us that with certain height and certain age, we have an optimal weight. And therefore, medically, you can be overweight, underweight, at your weight. There are even terms like morbidly obese, which means you are way beyond the expected weight. If a kindergartner just cuts across the field on that and calls it this, why can't we, as a society, create a space where they're not ashamed of their truth? We can teach them to be decent and teach them to be polite without making them feel like I can't be honest, and that truth telling has consequences. I know we're picking on like small examples, but the reason why I think that's important is because it avalanches, right? The moment I'm convinced I can't be honest about people's size, then I'm not, and I can't be honest about the size, what their babies look like, and I can't be honest. You know, people say all the time, "Oh, wow, look at your hair; it looks great," when it looks objectively disgusting, right? We know that it does not look right, it does not fit you, but people, we lie as a society. So here's the consequence. Then we wonder why we don't trust each other. And why, when you give me a compliment, be like, are you being honest? Or are you just playing in my face? Wait, do you really mean that? You ain't got to gas me up. Don't gaslight me. Like, all this stuff comes out of the fact that we have created a society where
But don't we ask those questions to protect ourselves too, though? Right? We've done that before. We've asked each other, like, are you being honest? Or are you playing in my face?
Yeah, but I think, you know, maybe we protect ourselves. Say more about that. But I also think part of it is just fact checking, because we're so used to being lied to in the society. We're so used to people just saying, you know, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. You going through hell and high water. Your whole entire life is burning up in a dumpster, and you talking about some fine, right? Or, you know, hey, what you got planned for the weekend? Oh, I'm just going to go home and relax. And you know, when you go home, you can be stressed out. You're trying to figure out what you're going to do to pay the bills. You don't really, we never create space to just be completely honest with each other. And I think because of that, we have a society that really is dealing with some major trust issues.
I mean, I think that these environments are not perfect, but we can create secure environments for people to be honest, open, transparent, and share their truth authentically without us flinching or judging someone. You know, and what I'm saying is, like, you know, protecting ourselves from harm, because quite honestly, you know, I know, I tell white lies all the time. I share that. And because I tell white lies, now I'm also thinking, like, you know, are you being honest with me?
Right.
That's protecting, right? Because now I'm trying to guard my heart. I'm not trying to, you know, what we say earlier. I'm not gonna bite that, right? Because if I feed into it, who knows? You could be lying to me.
Well, I mean, I think what you just also pointed out is so true. This transaction that happens, because I have learned the lesson that, you know, brutal honesty, truth telling is socially unacceptable. It has negative consequences. And I'm expected to be politically correct, be diplomatic, be civil, whatever these terms are that we use, right? So I sew into the mess with my own little lies of, man, that is a really great comment, when I'm like, I have no idea what you just said. And because I'm putting it into the mix, someone else is going to add to it. And now that I'm confused with my own thought, because I don't even know what you were just talking about, someone else got a lot of me and say, oh man, the two of you, I want to piggyback. You're not piggybacking on nothing, because neither of us make any sense. Or, you know, yeah, I think we perpetuate it. We all end up putting our making our contribution into the pool, and before you know it, we're in this mess. It's
A
society.
mess.
Here's the other thing I know is we've got a situation where I think this is when you said protection, this is what I was thinking. It's like I think we're all afraid of being honest with each other.
Hmm.
Right? So then we start creating words and phrases and systems that keep us from telling the truth. My best example is in the Workplace Belonging book, the number of companies that during their performance evaluation have categories where it's like strengths, accomplishments, successes, small wins, big wins, all this big fanfare, glorious language around the positive aspects of work. Turn the page when it comes to what I'm going to call criticism, critique, negative feedback. You know what they call it? Areas for improvement, learning curve, opportunities for growth. Come on now. All the things that, okay, so fine. I'm not against that. My question is, are we afraid to tell people that you're bad at something? You're not good at this. I tell the story all the time. I had a woman on my team one time who everybody told me she was miserable. She was socially grumpy. She was, not the most pleasant to work with, that I wouldn't like her. She wouldn't like me. I started really paying attention to her. And what I realized is she was highly productive, highly effective, met my deadlines, did good work on paper. But when I met her as a person, I got to admit, she was she's a personality that doesn't typically gel with people who are energetic and like to stay more on cloud 9, 10, or 11 than under the ground. So my energy was a little too much for her, and her darkness zapped me very quickly. But keeping my eye on the things that matter, she does good work. She generates reports. Her reports are accurate. She meets my deadline. She hits her targets. All right. So at some point, I met with her and said, look, people say this about you. I don't take what people say to me about people and just go with it. But now that I've met you, I got to say, sis, you are really good at A, B, C, and D. You meet deadlines. You analyze data with your eyes closed. Your reports are accurate and timely, and they're well structured and well formatted. Now, flip the page.
Not flip the page.
Sis, you're not nice. You don't like people. And I got good news for you. People don't like you. So what could I do as your supervisor to help change either the narrative about you or your work experience? You know what her answer was? She said, get me away from people. And what I realized is her job required her on a day-to-day basis. She was front facing. She was interacting with people. And I had to tell her, you are not good with people. And she had to tell me, boss, I don't want to be good with people. You just told me I'm good with data. I'm good with reports. Put me somewhere where I can generate reports. I can work with data. So, when people were saying get her off the team, I was like, oh, no, we're not getting her off the team. But now we're going to change her seat. She's got to go to a different seat. And so I think sometimes the leadership challenge, the leadership question is not about just hiring, firing, and onboarding. It's about finding out who your people are, giving them honest, title of the show, feedback about what they're good at, what they're not good at. That's not an area of improvement. She don't want to improve. That's not a growth opportunity for her. She is not trying to grow in that space. I got to tell her, you are not good at that. If you don't want to be good at that, I'm not going to cram it down your throat, but I got good news for you. Turns out I do need someone on my team who does data and analysis and reporting. And I think I can figure it out that I can reduce the amount of face time with people.
But in order to get there, you have to be honest with them, right? You have to share that feedback. And I think that another thing too is like let's bring into conversations like the people who on the receiving end have to be able to you know accept it
Yeah.
and not you know put this guard up thinking you can't tell me nothing. I'm what did he say? My shit don't stink.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, like this is something that it's a shared belief or perspective about you,
Mhm.
and you have to be honest with yourself, saying that's true, and then sharing with you honestly that I'm not, and I don't want to be around them. I know I have skill. I know I can contribute meaningfully. I know I can take us somewhere we never been,
Yep.
but I can also let you know me and interacting with those with students and colleagues 24/7, that's not where you want me.
You don't want me there. That's gonna drain me. And if it
It's going
drains
to drain
me, I'm
me.
gonna
It's
drain
going to
you.
drain you.
Mhm.
It's going to drain them. It's going to drain our budget.
Yep.
It's I mean, it's just like you said, it's an avalanche.
It's a recipe for disaster.
100%. So, you know, what I'm saying is for the person on the receiving end, you don't have to subscribe to everything. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is be honest with yourself too.
Mhm.
Like you owe that to yourself. If nothing else, you owe it to yourself.
Right, but like you were saying earlier, if you say a little white lie, that's going to make me say a little white lie. It's going to make our colleagues say a little white lie, and then the student adds a little white lie. Right? It avalanches, it grows, it reproduces itself. So let's imagine. By the way, anybody who's watching, I see some things happening on LinkedIn. Y'all, thank y'all for what you're doing. Share, reshare, post, tag. I wasn't able to do all that, so appreciate if you all can help us get it out to some of the folks who need to hear this conversation, and also use the comments or the chat to let us know what you're thinking about. We'll share some of them on the screen. But what is that movie? The Invention of Lying. If no one's watched it, you got to watch that movie. It's a movie that is about, like, basically it's trying to imagine the day before lies were a thing, right? So it introduces you to this world where everyone is honest, where you could say he's fat, he's skinny, that does not match. You are not good at that job. That was rude, whatever. And people were just brutally honest, softly honest. They were just honest. And then one day, someone needed to not tell the truth. And so they invented lying. And they said it. And then they told someone, I said that. And the person's like, but wait, that's not true. And they're like, I know, I just made it up. And they're like, oh my gosh, you can make stuff up? And they were like, yeah, but look how happy people are when you start to just say whatever. Tell them what they want to hear. Before you know it, it propagates. But I mean, everybody is lying left and right about nothing and about anything. So my point is, if we got to this by sowing lies, hypothetical question, can we undo this by starting to sow truth? Right? Where you can tell a person, um, and it's not always you're bad at this, so get lost, or you're not a good writer, so don't write. Sometimes it's you're not very good at writing. I have a hard time trying to understand your points. You're really going to have to work on this. I'm willing to work with you. Here's some tools and resources, and here's how we can work on it if you want to improve. But the person says, I don't want to improve. I don't want to be a writer. We have to be able to embrace that, accept that for what it is, and turn the page, right? So I'm thinking part of it is, how do we get back to creating spaces where we can be honest? My last example, then I'll tag you back in. So the situation I was talking about, where I was with these colleagues and the situation was not, the event was not well executed. And I was telling someone, it was poorly executed. I didn't want to be a part of it. And I was right on the sort of cusp of telling people, my colleagues and my friends around me, like, this is really not well done. It's not well executed. It does not reflect the level of excellence that I want to be associated with. And it also does not reflect the level of preparation I think you put into this. So with all due respect, I'm out. And my colleague, or the person I was talking to, said, Oh no, I wouldn't have done that. I would have said, "Ooh, I have an emergency. I gotta go." But I don't have an emergency, right? That's that politically correct, diplomatic, find a way to be gracious and just excuse yourself without confronting the reality of this is horrible. Like, this is some raggedy mess that y'all are doing right now. I can't be associated with it. Like, why can't we find the words to do that? Because here's the problem. If I say, and look, I've had days where I will, right? Hey, Jaquin, call me and act like it's an emergency. So I can just stage left. But look what I've left the group with. You don't get the feedback that I don't have an emergency to get to. There's no meeting. There's no fire for me to go put out. It's that this is raggedy and poorly planned and poorly executed. I just don't want to be a part of it. And I think we're better than this. Right? That's the feedback that causes the incremental improvement and adjustment that we talk so much about, I know, at my institution.
I mean, yeah, do I think that we can get back to a society where we're honest? I want to believe that. But I think that we have to start being honest, right? Not just talk about it, not just, being be in a meeting and talking about what, the benefits of honesty and ways to be honest. Like, fucking, I mean, freaking do it. Just be honest, right? And then work through those emotions when they emerge.
Mhm.
Because if we don't practice it or put it into practice, then again, we're just on this circle talking about the same issue over and over again. And that's not beneficial. At some point, people are just going to get burnt out and say, forget it. It is what it is.
I mean, how many times have we seen in either our professional settings or in some of the collaborative consulting work, times where people will say, "Can I do this?" I'm thinking about some of the more recent coaching projects, right?
Well, just
"Can I
think
do
about it. I
this?"
mean, we have something, we've done a project where, you know, we were honest about the results. They didn't want to hear it.
Right.
People don't want to hear it. It doesn't make them feel good.
Hmm.
So what do? Here we go. We give them the glitz and glamour to make sure you go home and don't run in front of traffic.
Jump in front of traffic, right? And so you can go to sleep at night and get up tomorrow and have
But
another.
again, in the same breath, you can't talk about, you are someone who looks to improve every single day. That's not true.
Yeah. Well, you can't improve without honest feedback, because the message that we then end up cobbling together, and when I say cobble together, I mean you sometimes got to pull and yank this stuff to make it glitters and skittles and rainbows, glitter and glamour, is we're okay. I don't have to do anything. We're good. Everything's good. Even though up under it, you see that it's not. I mean, I was going to say, we've had times where some of the fellows we're coaching might come forward with an idea and the organization's not ready for it. And rather than say, that's a really good plan, that's a really good idea, our organization's not ready for it. We don't have the infrastructure for it. We don't have the resources to power your plan. I don't like your plan. Your plan would change some things. It would, challenge my protocol or disempower me or make it so that I'm not necessary to the team, and be honest about these things so we can then talk through them. What we'll say is things like, "Ooh, that's a good idea. Let's circle back to that. Give me some time to think about it. Let's come." We know we're not circling back. It's just another way of saying no.
No.
Without saying
Mhm.
no. It's like we have professionalized dishonesty to the point where we call it diplomacy, politically correctness, being polite, having decorum. We got to really call a spade sometimes. Just blatant kinds of what is this? Theater. We're performing politeness, but that performance has consequences. It keeps us from being great.
Okay, and that segue us into, how does that make people feel, right? So if we're saying that, good idea, let's circle back to it. The person hears no, and they know that we're never going to talk about this topic again. So their experience is, again, why do I come to the meetings prepared? Why do I come to the meetings with ideas? Why do I come to you with ideas? Why am I here? these are things people are feeling and thinking about that also leads to so many negative outcomes. Because then we don't get the best ideas from people. People don't show up authentically. People, um, you know, are disengaged in conversation, and then you get labeled for that, right? Because we don't, rather than going to the root issue and talking about, where is this coming from,
Mhm.
and then sharing. Well, every time I come to you with an idea, you tell me no, or you beat around the bush and basically telling me no, but then you want me to show up the very next meeting or, you know, the next time we cross paths and be happy go lucky. Mm-mm.
Exactly right.
People can't do that.
Nope.
I mean, you at there, everyone has their limits, and there are some people who can do it for a couple years, a couple months. There are some who are just like, I'm not playing this game with you.
Mhm. Yeah, we punish our truth tellers. And if we really think about it, depending on the context, what we're talking about, is it at work? Is it at school? Is it at home? Is it at church? Um, ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble. We punish our truth tellers, and sometimes in very public and relatively brutal, kind of hostile and embarrassing ways, wouldn't you say? It's like, I know I have been in meetings somewhere in my career that everyone knows these meetings are pointless. We're going to start, we're going to squabble through some stuff that sort of feels made up, no real structure, ain't anchored to nothing. It's not building on anything we talked about in the last meeting. There really is no aim. It's just meeting to meet. Everyone knows it. We all talk about it. And if we don't talk audibly about it, we talk about it with our eyes and all this stuff, right? And then we go to a meeting and maybe we hired someone new. Maybe it's just that day, like you said, everybody's got a day, right? Where they're just like, not today, Satan. And so they got it. You get into the meeting and someone's like, what is the point of this? And everybody's, you know, and now before you know it, someone's written up for speaking out of turn, for being non-collegial, for being insubordinate. No, we're punishing someone for speaking the truth. And what's interesting is it may be inconvenient, right? It may not be that that's the setting where we wanted it to come out. And for some reason, all of us have been able to keep the lid on it, but it's not wrong. That's the part that, I always get down with. I can get jiggy with that. If it's not wrong, it may be inconvenient. You're not going to lose ground with me, especially not as a leader. I had a time where one of my institutions, a faculty member in the middle of a faculty meeting, sort of disrupted the meeting while I was talking, was like, yeah. Look here. I'm overworked, underpaid. I don't feel like this. I don't feel like that. And I feel like this is, I forget what she said, something like, this is a hostile relationship. And everyone was like, oh, and oh, that's so disrespectful. Why would she talk when he was talking and whatever? I calmed the room, reached out and amplified the voice. Can you repeat that? Can you tell me what experiences you've had that give rise to that witness? Why do you feel this way? And as she started chronicling her journey, I agree with her. She is not wrong. She had had some moments that the average person would feel like, this is not equitable. This is not fair. This is not just. And so I told her, I'm surprised you've been able to hold it this long. Now, I talked to her offline about decorum and about when is the right time, and we have appropriate channels for sharing that information, but I never punished her for speaking the truth, even at an inconvenient time, and then worked with her to solve some of the problems that were making her frustrated. In fact, that story goes, I went out of my way to try to get this person promoted. Why? Because for me as a leader, what I learned that day is she's going to be honest with me. And as a leader, I don't need people around me who say, oh, yes, everything's great. Ooh, no. I don't need that if it's not true. I need someone who can, what is that thing? Tell the emperor without his clothes, whatever, the emperor has no clothes on. I need someone who can say, this boat is about to sink. Mm-hmm. And that this person over here is not on board. They are trying to, compromise the goals we've set for ourselves. This person over here is not student friendly. Students don't even like them. This person over, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need to know those things, not so I can go and be and retaliate against them, but so I can figure out what are the uh what are the barriers to our progress. And you need people who can be honest. So I typically go out of my way to try to promote, support, amplify people who can demonstrate that they can be honest. And we demand honesty about some things, right? Worst thing you can do as a professional is lie on your resume. You got to be honest about that. Do you have a degree? Where is it from? Is it in progress? Or is it completed? What school did you get it from? If you got a master's, say you got a master's. Don't say you got a doctor if you don't have a doctor. You know what I'm saying? Like, accuracy, even for me, oh my gosh, talk about a hard thing to keep up with. Like, I have to keep up with the number of publications that I write and have it all on my resume. Even though I'm not motivated, just keep listing a whole bunch of stuff on my resume. I have to push myself professionally to do it, because in this profession, education, higher education, we demand honesty and accuracy about some things while requiring dishonesty about other things. We don't create environments where people can be honest about how they feel about their bosses, how they feel about the nature of our meetings, about how they feel about our commitment to our values and our goals and directions. How do they feel as an employee? Do you feel celebrated? Do you feel respected? The rules are so arbitrary. It's like selective honesty standards, and they're constantly shifting. But the consequences for getting them wrong are real. Speak up at the wrong time and say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and be too candid or too brutally honest, you'll be unemployed. If you're not unemployed, you'll be unpopular. If you're not unpopular, you'll be isolated. You'll be unsupported. There are all these unwords that happen when you violate these norms. And what I appreciate about this conversation is it lays it out, it bare for people to consider, for our students, for our faculty, for our staffs, in our homes, in our churches. I spend a lot of time in church. I am a musician and a choir director who will tell you, like, stop. Y'all sound horrible. Oh no. Mm-mm. You know what? We're not gonna get this song ready by Sunday. So let's just turn the page, find another song, right? And people will say, or I'll say, hey, Brenda, sing this song, and Brenda will go up there and start. No, this is not your song to lead. You can't do it. Because why? For me, music, especially the way I sort of operate and use it in the church, music is ministry. I think it's just as important, if not sometimes as important, as the sermon. So I can't afford, people come into church, places of worship, synagogues, from all different walks of life, right? I just always think about, and I always tell my choirs, like, think about this. Someone's going to walk in this church on Sunday who could very well be on the brink of throwing in the towel, right? Giving it all up, as you said, jumping in front of traffic, or taking their own life, unfortunately, or hanging on by a thread, and they just need something that will inspire them to tie a knot and hang on. Before the sermon is ever preached, what's going to happen? They're going to hear music. And if that music has them, oh my gosh, covering their ears, and the song is not executed well, and I can't even understand the person singing because they're not, melodious in their words, or they're so loud and bombastic, I can't even make out the words. That's not ministering to the people. I can't, as a musician, be like, oh, well, I don't want to tell Brenda she sound horrible, and I can't tell the choir, y'all off key. Let me just keep on playing. No. You got to have honesty. So we're really talking about, how do we create those spaces? And here's the thing, I'll shut up on this one. I think I've seen choirs get better because we can be honest. Now, I don't know if we want to go here. I can come in and sort of operate that way if people will be okay with it. What I've learned is most people, Emily Dickinson has a poem, I'm paraphrasing, that says something like, the truth must dazzle lightly. Can't be heavy. It's got to come in. You got to tell the truth lightly first, or all the world, these are Emily Dickinson's words, not mine, as ableist. She says, or all the world go blind, meaning they're overshadowed. It's too much, too fast, right? So I've realized when working with groups in the workplace, in choirs, in the community, you and I have a group that we collaborated with, a particular nonprofit that wanted us to help them chart a new chapter for themselves. Part of that work required us to just be honest with the organization about its capacity, about its resources, about what's possible, right? We could go in there and say, oh, yeah, yeah, you can do this and compete with everybody, but that's Skittles and rainbows. It's not helpful because they're not really able to do that. They don't have the capacity, they don't have the personnel, they don't have the resources to do so. So, what I've learned is sometimes you got to get to know people, take them out to lunch. I've taken my choirs out to eat just so we can get to know each other, hang out. Sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses. I'll tell stories about how I've tried to perfect my music craft, and times where I blundered and made a mistake, and times where I rocked the house, so that we can start to create a space where we can be vulnerable, we can be honest, we can understand each other's commitments. They know it's coming from a good place. And once I got that in place, all right, now I'm saying, altos, sit down, y'all sound terrible. Tenors, let's try you.
Yeah, I mean, you lay out several reasons why people are not honest. But I think that, you bring into the conversation about relationships, right? I think that a safe relationship is where, peace replaces panic, where you can, um, where you don't feel like you're walking on eggshells. And because you get to know the people, who they are, what they strive to be, uh, what they're scared of, and the list goes on. We can create these strong bonds between each other to a point where we can tell the truth. I think there are some people out here. I know for me, there are relationships that I have. One being you is I can be honest and not fear being judged or fear that you're going to retaliate. I think that I can come to you and others in my corner about things that bother me or that didn't land, and because I'm honest with you, we can engage in a conversation. But it's built from a solid foundation, what we call relationships. There are some people in the workplace, family members, and elsewhere where you don't have you don't feel like you have that relationship where you can be honest with them.
Mhm.
So I think the question becomes, how do we build meaningful relationships with people as an on ramp to honesty? Like you said, or someone, you paraphrase someone, is like, it has to land softly.
Yeah.
I know something we always say is like, um, no chaser. Like you just go, you're going to say that with no
Right.
chaser. Like you're not going. Can I have some juice with it?
Yeah.
Why you just give it to me straight? Or can at least get it on the rocks, right? And I think that those things, sit with people and they think about it. And because we don't want to be viewed in a negative light, I'm just going to give you something that is not true,
Mhm.
or beat around the bush just enough to, you get the point, but you don't get the point.
Right.
Because I want to make sure that our relationship, there's no tension,
Mhm.
especially when you're working under someone, right? And your boss, as we said earlier, like, you know, someone told the truth in a setting and they were publicly ridiculed or they were written up. Well, what does that telling me? I've learned from your experience. I'm not telling the truth.
Mhm.
But if you have a leader, as you pointed out, or lady for us, is like, as in your example, like, amplify the voice. Tell me again. What are you saying to me?
Yep.
What is that signaling to other people? You're open to feedback, criticism, and willing to do the work with them to improve the conditions.
Yeah.
And I think that is where we can kind of promote honesty in any setting.
Yeah. I mean, you're demonstrating through your actions and your words, which is so wonderful for humans. We don't think about it this way, but you're really communicating. You don't have to be perfect to be on this team. You don't have to be perfect to be successful at this place of employment. You don't have to be perfect to be a good student in my class. You don't have to be perfect to be a runner on this team, whatever it might be. You know, there's just so many different ways of spinning it. And I think the other part you spoke to is, you know, the way you're framing it now, it helps us see and understand that sometimes honesty isn't the problem. It's our response to it that becomes problematic. Right? What if it's not just that we have a society full of people who have learned how to tell white lies or be socially dishonest, right? But we also don't know how to receive the truth with grace and understanding. We haven't learned how to be self-reflective and think, what are they offering me? What am I learning about myself? What am I learning from this? And then move forward. So I think that to me is a sort of deeper question about all of this is, you know, we internalize all of this and think, well, if they say that the meetings are boring, I feel like what they're saying is I'm a bad person. I'm a bad leader. I'm incompetent. I'm not, you know, a good supervisor. No one said any of those words.
Yeah.
Only thing they said is that your meetings are boring. And maybe we could sit with that and be like, what are they telling me? Well, that, you know, that's off the doming it. But now that I've said it, I'm thinking about what I would hear from that is, one, people come to work and they go to meetings because they want them to be not boring. People are looking for meetings to be informative, engaging, productive, right? That's one pickup. Second is, what could I then do as a supervisor or as a leader, person who puts on meetings, to breathe some new life into my meetings? And what we know from our coaching work is I wouldn't have to stay up all night trying to figure this out. As a good leader, especially a diplomatic and democratic and open leader, I could come to the team and say, hey, I'm picking up that you all want more productive and more engaging meetings. What ideas do you have for me? How about this? Jaquin, starting next week, we're going to rotate. Every single one of us will facilitate a meeting. Do it your way. You know, only non-negotiables are we need to have an agenda. Y'all know what our goals are. Y'all know what we got to cover. But do it your way. Bring some new life to it. And let's see what you do. And then the next week, Mary tries it. And after Mary, then Jamal tries it. And after Jamal, then Caitlin tries it. And before you know it, we've exposed to 4 or 5 different ways of running a meeting from which I can learn a lot as the supervisor.
I mean, that's a good strategy. I think that too, what I'm hearing is like we have to kind of depersonalize this feedback. Like the example you shared that the meetings are boring. They didn't say you were a bad leader, right? But we automatically assume like, oh, they view me as a horrible person, and we get so caught up in that narrative where we miss what was shared. So I think that something we talked about too is like professional maturity. I was in the work setting, and just maturity in general is like what it means is you don't allow it to consume you. You self-reflect without blaming yourself and sitting with, okay, this is what was shared. How can I work through it? But again, yeah, I think that you don't, like you say, you don't have to do it alone. Reach out to people, ask them, right? I think that's step one. Tell me more. Here's what I'm thinking. What are your ideas? Also, I want to share is that stop going into these conversations with problems and no solutions. Have something. Have some idea, right? We're it's so easy to identify problems and share them with people and complain. But can you follow up with, and here are a few things I think that we can do to improve it. I think leaders and people in general are open to that, right? Rather than just hearing, I guess, quote unquote, you're bad at something.
Yeah, it's like, I tell the story all the time. My boss and one of my leadership mentors, Dr. Lucas, one time told me, that I needed to change my habit of, I think it is important to be responsive to email. Given the sheer number of emails that I receive across all platforms, I cannot be responsive to emails immediately. So my goal, so that I stay alive and I don't burn out because I've exhausted myself with these unreasonable expectations, is just don't lose sight of the things that you got to get back to. I may not be able to get to the email today, maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe I can't get to it today, but I'm get to it tonight. Maybe I can't get to it tonight, but I can get to it tomorrow night. There are all these, so I have different strategies for trying to keep up. And then, you know what? Look, I'm human. Some of them will fall through the crack, and fortunately people give me enough grace to pull it back to the top of my inbox and say, "Hey, handle this." All right, so I was responding to emails at 4 o'clock in the morning, at 3 a.m., at 2 a.m., anytime my eyes could open to respond to emails. And he said to me, you don't want that to be the look for you professionally, that you're up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 2 a.m. responding to emails. And of course, like humans, I had all the answers, all the responses in the world. But I'm so busy. I'm in this. I got this. I got to do this. And I got these other things. I got to get it. And he said, yeah. What I'm saying is, I hear you. I understand what you're trying to do. And I want to introduce you to the power of technology. That just because you write the email at 2 a.m. doesn't mean it has to go at 2 a.m. You can schedule it to go out at 8 a.m. I've said this a million times. It changed my life forever. Sometimes I release the email at 2 a.m. because I know the person needs it right then, or because I'm not troubled about, as you said, I trust the person. They know me. They're probably like, oh, he probably just got to his computer or whatever. But when it's a sort of external facing partner, and I want to make sure that it's not, I don't want people to feel like, the other thing I learned is that sometimes depending on what seat you're in, people feel obligated to respond to your note the moment that you send it. And so people would say things like, oh, Doc, I got your email last night at 2 a.m. Did you get my response? I got up out of bed and went to go respond to it. And I'm like, what in the world? Why are you doing that? Because you have to appreciate the weight that sometimes you carry in these seats. And so, I put a little note at the bottom of my email that says, my work day is not yours. Please do not feel obligated to respond to this email outside of your normal working hours. But I had to match that with sometimes just scheduling the email so that it hits them at 8 o'clock, and at 8 o'clock they're working, they can then respond to it. I think all of these are the kind of things you're talking about, like strategies that we could all use, listen to, feedback we can sit with so we can get better.
Hmm. I agree. Wow. We at 58-minute mark, and we try to do
Whoop,
our
whoop.
best to keep it at the hour. So we today we talked about honesty. Um, how can we create a more honest society? What are some of the barriers in place that keep us from being honest? So with that, are there any, do you have any final, I guess, comments before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, I think about what we've been saying. This was a interesting topic. That's why I'm glad it's a do good Friday kind of conversation. Um, and looking forward to tomorrow's episode. You all be sure to tune in, where we're going to be hearing from the mayor of Memphis, the Honorable Paul Young, and talking through some of that. But I think, to recap, it is true that we teach kids, to sort of tell the truth. And then we spend 18 or more years teaching them not to. And by adulthood, we are all fluent in this strategic dishonesty, this social theater around diplomacy and kindness and candor. And I'm not against that. I'm just simply saying, I'm glad we have a space where we can talk about some of the consequences of that. Is it keeps us from creating spaces where we can be honest. Sometimes because we can't be honest, we can't get better. And because we can't get better, we can't be our best. We can't move from good to great, from excellence to eminence, and the like. Um, I think it's also true that, in the workplace, we often say things. I love this. People always say, let me be honest. I'm going to be candid. I'm just going to be transparent. And it's always followed by something that's not. To your point about trust and honesty, one of my frat brothers last week was like, I'm just going to be transparent. I'm just going to be honest. And I was like, could you stop? Because you're not being transparent and honest. And I told him, I said, you're not being transparent and honest until you tell me A, B, and C. Just performing transparency and honesty. And we're too close, I think, as fraternity brothers for you to do that. So honesty has become a bad thing. And the moment we decided we're not comfortable hearing it, and we punish people for telling the truth, we don't punish people for lying. I think we've got to figure out, what have we created? How much of this can we tolerate as a society, as a business, as a family, as a church community, as business partners? And how much of this can we not, and we want to change? The good news is it's Friday. And
Come
for
on,
me,
pizza day.
that means it's pizza day.
Pizza day.
And it's the beginning of a weekend. It has been a pretty long week, really good, great week. Spent time in lots of great, wonderful places doing important work. But, I'm really looking forward to just having some good time and some fun this weekend. So for me, the conversation was worth it because it's an important conversation. We say in our opening song, or opening ditty, that these podcast episodes are, this is the place where we can talk about important issues that influence the boardroom, the state house, the White House, the classroom, the community. And this is one of them. So hopefully those who tune in, those who will watch later, will certainly be inspired to ask important questions, maybe even to go into some site tomorrow, maybe even today, and to dial up the honesty a little. It can still be polite. It can still be wrapped in either a chaser or enough padding that people can digest it. But that ultimately it pushes us to be a little bit better individually and collectively. What about you? Closing comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is an important topic that we discussed today, and I'm glad that we, came on to the live to have this discussion. Honesty is important. If we really want to get better and improve, regardless of what it is, then we have to be honest with each other. And again, like you said, we can it can be we can have decorum, we can be polite, but we also have to be okay with speaking truth. So I hope that this conversation really helps someone today tell the truth, whatever that is. Um, and on this Do Good Friday, we like to close out with, what is it? Do something. If you're gonna do something,
Don't
do
be
something
afraid
good.
to do something.
There you go. You do it. You do it. You know it better than me.
No, I'm serious. It's like, listen, it's Friday. If you've had a long week, this is the time now. I mean, y'all look, we got on, he made me put this on. We'll talk
No,
about that
I
later.
did not. I didn't make you put it on. No.
Okay. My mother appreciates when we dress up, and he thinks this is something we should try. Okay, so I'm fine for it. But I'm gonna tell you this: the moment we're off screen, I'm ready to go jump in something comfortable. Is it probably at least 85, 90 degrees outside? I'm gonna perish in this kind of clothes. Put on something that's way more comfortable and enjoy the weekend. If you are not a person who makes time for yourself to unwind, to unplug, to do something that gives you life, we're trying to tell you in this episode, do it today. If you're going to do something, don't be afraid to do something today. Don't put it off for next week or, oh, no, I got all this. No. Today, tonight, you can watch a movie. You can, jump on your computer and start writing that book you've always wanted to write. You can look, if you spend all your time balancing budgets and doing numbers, why don't you, if you want to, you've been putting off that crochet project, or you want to use the side of your brain, go to a piano, play some music, jump on the computer and create a flyer, whatever you want to do. It's your world. We're just living in it, but do something, and don't be afraid to do something good. We call it good work. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Do Good Work Podcast. We hope you found today's conversation informative, uplifting, and insightful. Don't forget to like and share this episode with your networks. Follow us on social media at Do Good Work on X, formerly Twitter, for real-time updates, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more. Until next time, friends, don't be afraid to do something, but do something good. Do good work.